back to CP24 on our special edition of cystic fibrosis. Today we were interviewing with Ryan Gray. Ryan? Hello, nice to meet you.
Hello, nice to meet you too.
What do you do?
I'm a newly graduated biologist from the University of Waterloo. I am specialized in molecular biology and biotechnology.
Are you here to talk to us today about cystic fibrosis?
Yes, I am.
What is cystic fibrosis?
Cystic fibrosis is a terrible disease. It affects nearly 1 in every 3,600 newborns in Canada. And it's a genetic disease that has to do with a gene, a single gene, the CFTR gene. And its symptoms are multi-organ. It affects mainly the respiratory tract and the digestive tract. And a lot of this has to do with the mucus that's produced in the body. And the mutations in this gene allow for different properties of the inherent mucus in us, and that's where a lot of the symptoms are.
So what causes cystic fibrosis?
As I was alluding to, a lot of the main causes, it's a genetic disease, it's autosomal recessive, which means that you have to have 2 defective copies of the gene, one from your mom, one from your dad. And this means that your body isn't able to produce the correct protein product, and instead is just producing a defective protein product. And in this case, it's a very important protein product. Pretty much, it's just that the gene product of the CFTR gene is defective, and that's what leads to all these symptoms.
So how common is it?
As I said, it's about 1 in every 3,600 newborns. And worldwide, there's been quite a lot of cases reported. It's a fairly common disease as well, even in developing countries, since it's genetic. It has nothing to do with the environment or things like that. And yeah.
Well, is there any special history of the disorder or any special history of the treatment?
It's actually one of the very first genes that was identified. It's and actually linked to a disease. In 1989, actually, researchers were able to link the CFTR gene to cystic fibrosis as a disease, and this opened up a whole new era for gene hunting and for genetic therapies and things like that, and actually identifying on a molecular level what's going on and what's causing a disease state. So it's very important that it's one of the first genes that was able to do that. And there are only really, when you think about it, a handful of diseases that are caused by a single gene mutation. So it's very good as a case study, and hopefully down the road it'll be one of the first diseases that's eliminated.
So is there any cure or treatment?
Right now, no. There's no cure. It's a genetic disease, and it's a defective protein product. So there's no way to actually treat that. There are new therapies coming out, and we're seeing more and more pushes towards gene therapies and actually introducing new genes that aren't defective into patients, but there are a lot of ethical implementations, and right now it's just not practically possible. So the best we can do is actually treat the patients, treat the symptoms in the patients. There are multiple ways to do this. There's treating first with the respiratory tract. You can actually, one of the oldest methods is to do clapping, and that's when in a hospital specialized nurses will clap the backs of the patients in a particular manner that will loosen the mucus that's trapped in their lungs. And another one is another newer one, and then there's also positive expiratory pressure, PEP, which actually the patient will wear a mask, and higher pressure inside the system will force air into their lungs. And one of the newer ones is DNase therapy, which is used by an inhaler. And why that's effective is that the whole problem is that this mucus is naturally present in our lungs and in our trachea. And when you have this disorder, the viscosity of the mucus is affected, and patients are not able to clear it out of their lungs. Whereas in a normal patient, specialized cells feed upwards and it goes into the stomach and is destroyed by the hydrochloric acid. But in CF patients, it's too thick for the cells to be able to do that. And this allows a very opportunistic pathway for pathogens such as viruses, bacteria, protozoans, etc. They can all land in the mucus, get stuck. Then your body will mount an immune response and white blood cells will destroy them. But then their DNA, which is very, very inherently sticky and viscous. It will accumulate there with nowhere to go, and this makes the problem even worse. So one of the treatments is DNA, which will break down this DNA and not affect the cells around it. So that's one of the newer treatments. And then there are other things like the disease is also very, very active in the pancreatic system, like in your digestive system, and it blocks the pancreatic duct. So enzymes that are released by the pancreas into the intestines and into the digestive system aren't able to reach their destinations, and then food can't be broken down, so these patients are malnourished, they're underweight, they have lots and lots of digestive problems. So patients can actually take enzymes with their food that would be produced by the body but aren't able to reach the digestive tract, and this allows them to lead a much more normal life, but can be up to 20 pills a day. And then things like exercise has also been shown to really do a lot of good for patients.
So how's it diagnosed?
There's nowadays with newer methods, there's genetic screening. So even when a baby's in the womb, it can be tested and screened for this disease by looking for the actual mutations in the gene and seeing if it has a functional copy of the gene. This is usually only performed if there's a chance that it might be a CF case where the parents, for example, might have cystic fibrosis or known carriers or things like that. But also the most traditional method is just a sweat test. This is done by literally tasting the sweat of a CF patient. Mm-hmm. And why this is effective is that this gene is responsible for an ion channel, which has to do with sodium ions. And when this gene is defective, sweat doesn't taste like sweat. It tastes, I believe it tastes sweet, but I know it doesn't taste like normal sweat.
Ooh, tasty. What goes wrong specifically?
The gene, there's over 14,000 different mutations that are able to happen to the gene that will lead to cystic fibrosis, because this gene is a fairly large gene. It's a transmembrane protein, and it's a very, very large gene. It's I believe 1,480 amino acids long, and so there's a lot of places for it to go wrong. The most common is the delta F508 mutation, which is a deletion in the phenylalanine in the 508th position, and then this causes the protein to not fold correctly, can't do its job, and it's just won't work. So in this is seen in about 66% of worldwide cases and up to 90% in North America. But there, as I said, there are a million things that could go wrong. And as we learn more and more about the gene, what it does and what's going wrong, we might find ways to fix these issues.
So what's the average life expectancy for these kids and people?
It's a really, really hard disease. With all of the symptoms I mentioned, people say it's like breathing underwater, and it's really hard. And historically, it wasn't even identified until after the child has died, and it wasn't very good. But ever since the gene has been identified, we've learned more and more about the nature of the disease, the epidemiology, the physiology, things like that. In just the last couple of decades, you see now that patients are able to live to 37 years old is the median age. And with more and more research and at the pace it's creating, hopefully in the next few years, the next couple of decades, patients could live to 40, 50 years old, have a full life.
Wow, well, thank you for joining us, Ryan Gray.
My pleasure.
It was very nice to meet you.
You too.
Okay. Join us next time on CB24. Press the button. Not that button.